Hey folks! In the spring of 2022, there was a lot of buzz surrounding the Royal British Columbia Museum. The RBCM is a provincial museum supposedly representing the cultures and people of British Columbia. It's been around for about 100 years, and it kind of shows. The building that the RBCM is currently housed in is ripe with asbestos, lead piping, and it's not a building that you want to be standing in if an earthquake should hit in this very earthquake-prone area. In early 2022, politicians were trying to decide what to do with this crown jewel of the local tourism economy. The first thought was to tear the building down and start with a fresh, clean slate. Brand new building, everyone's happy, right? There was a big announcement to the public, but between the billion-dollar price tag and the fact that people were concerned about losing the heart of Victoria's tourism industry, it didn't go over well with the public. So the government went, okay, we won't tear down the building, but we do need to address some of these concerns, the lead piping, the asbestos, the seismic issues, and the third floor that covers human history hasn't had any updates or changes in about 3 decades. Maybe we should address that too. So the museum made another announcement that they would not be tearing down the building, but they would still be removing the entire 3rd floor and just changing that up a little bit. Namely, they would be getting rid of Old Town, which was a 19th century street that has like lots of little shop windows and things with artifacts from the collection. Not a lot of interpretation though, if any. When the news went out that Old Town was going to be removed, people went crazy. With the amount of anger that I saw both online and in person, you would think that they were like chucking puppies off the top of the building. But apparently the nostalgia for this 3rd floor was so strong that it created a tsunami of negative press and general public outrage towards the museum and the provincial government. The exhibits were fun, they were very old-timey, but not necessarily in a good way. Some of the artifacts had been on display for 30 plus years, and the interpretation, when it was present, was very one-sided and intent on glorifying the good old days, and kind of glossed over some really tragic and horrible parts of BC's history. All of the historians and museum professionals that I know locally all kind of agreed, yeah, these displays needed an upgrade. So the 3rd floor of the museum has been closed for about half a year as staff refresh artifacts, and there's been some public engagement sessions to see what people want to see in these new displays. But a few months ago, that timeline got crunched because the tourism minister told the museum that they had to reopen it several months earlier than anticipated. To keep all of the voters happy, the tourism minister Lana Popham cried, "Let there be Old Town!" And she forced the museum to reopen the 3rd floor, and supposedly it's got a fresh new look with some innovative interpretation. So I went and checked it out, and it's a hot mess. Before I begin my critique and really start swinging at this hornet's nest, I just want to be explicitly clear that I do not blame the staff of the Royal BC Museum. They were given a Herculean task with almost no resources, a ridiculous timeline, and that is not their fault. The tourism minister, Lana Popham, told them to have it open way earlier than anticipated, and as a result, we have a half-finished exhibition. In typical YouTuber fashion, I have curated a numbered list of my critiques that will allow us to walk through this revamp, if you can even really call it that. So let's begin. I think the best place to start with is with the interpretation, because that was one of the big things that was promised with this new revamped Old Town. They had said that there was going to be more stories told on the human history floor, more interpretation, more diverse perspectives, and yeah, there really wasn't much. The new interpretation that wasn't there prior to the closure was very bad. Overall, the few panels that they did have were like all of these really bright, different colors, and they just kind of all felt very disjointed. A lot of the panels talked about how there was going to be all of these new and innovative stories being told, and all of these new panels were going to be present, but there weren't many, really, at all. They did reuse a panel from another of their exhibits in the reproduction train station, which was cool, but it was obviously meant to be a part of a different exhibition, so it felt very out of place. There was a lot of context that was missing, so it just kind of felt slapped onto the wall, and it was also so dark and the font was so small that it was almost impossible to read. They also had one panel in front of a 19th century office setup, another panel about museum collection care, but those 3 panels were kind of the only, quote, new stories that were present in Old Town. Every other panel was dedicated to talking about this fresh new approach to Old Town, while that fresh new approach was completely absent from Old Town. I think the best way to summarize this is that if you walked through this area, you would not learn anything. And that was kind of the issue with Old Town pre-closure. Old Town is basically an amusement park or a theme park that you walk around in, and prior to closure there was no interpretation, and now if you go, the interpretation that is there is sparse and not good. It is not well done, and I sincerely pity the museum staff that had to present this half-finished project, especially while Lana Popham is patting herself on the back and telling herself she did such a good job for getting this open. The second point that I wanted to talk about is accessibility issues. I touched very briefly on this already, but there were so many accessibility issues, it was unbelievable. The interpretation, when it was present in Old Town, was so tiny and difficult to read. It was also very dim in there, which is par for the course of museums, but you're supposed to light the interpretation properly. You have to be able to read the panels. Otherwise, what's the point? I wear glasses. My eyesight isn't too bad, but I don't know how anybody with a stronger prescription than I have would be able to read these panels because I was struggling. I will give them half a point for swapping out the old-timey movies and the old-timey movie theater for what I think were local documentaries, but I have to take points away because there were no subtitles. The audio was terrible, so I couldn't hear what they were saying. There was also no sign saying what the documentary was, what the runtime was. Overall, I just had no idea what was going on. So for any museum staff watching, first of all, I'm sorry. Second of all, please give me subtitles and throw a flashlight or something on some of that interpretation. Overall, it was not a great experience. From the $30 price tag to get into the museum, to the half-finished Old Town display with its dark and vacant windows, this was pretty depressing. There are currently 2 temporary exhibits on at the Royal BC Museum, including one about dinosaurs and another about the Angkor Wat heritage site in Cambodia, and all of these exhibits were filled with people who were really excited and engaged with the material in front of them. But the thing is that we have an extremely nuanced and interesting history in British Columbia. The Royal BC Museum has a collection of millions of artifacts, and it doesn't seem to be able to play to its advantages. Or at the very least, they're not being allowed to play to their advantages. Instead of putting the work into exploring local history, paying local artisans and historians, politicians would rather that the museum pay upwards of $2 million on a prefabricated exhibit about a country on the other side of the world. Old Town was depressing. People ambled through, but they didn't really have much to look at or read because the exhibition is only half put together. This is the place that is supposed to represent us. This is the place that is supposed to tell the stories of people, of British Columbia's people, but there were no people present in any of the displays. It was soulless. I'm not asking for them to put terrifying mannequins in every display. I'm asking that you show photographs from around the province, You've got the BC archives right there. There are all these sad, vacant windows, and a very easy remedy would just be to throw up some archival images of interiors of stores in the 19th century. Throw up a little placard that explains what we're looking at, and you're already doing a lot better than these empty, sad, vacant storefronts. And that way people also learn something too. You've got an old hotel set up, so tell me about old hotels. Who could afford them? Who couldn't? What type of hotels? Where were they? Old Town also has a hotel, a pub, a Chinatown, and you just learn nothing. You learn nothing. It's all just set dressing, without the bits that make it an actual museum, and to see all of this hard work go to waste is heartbreaking. If you really don't want to put in information panels because you're worried they'll take away from the display, then at least hire some docents. Give them a binder full of archival pictures and historical information, have them study it, and then set them loose in Old Town to talk to people. Just do something. I feel like I should also mention that the RBCM has 2 heritage sites or heritage structures within their care, namely St. Anne's Schoolhouse and Helmicke House, which is one of the oldest structures in British Columbia. I don't remember when the last time either of these were open to the public, but I do know that at least Helmicke House, when I was there many years ago, had interpretation throughout the house. But as far as I know, both of these are permanently closed to the public, with exception to maybe special tours. At the very least, there is no information on how to visit it, what their hours of operation are, or anything like that on the website that I could find. Just kind of seems like a waste of a great way to engage people with local history, but what do I, a local, humble historian, know? It also appears that Helmicke House is kind of falling apart, so not sure what's happening there, but somebody should probably do something about the rotting deck. If the politicians can cough up $1 billion for a brand new building, I'm sure that there is a little bit of wiggle room to pay for the maintenance of this heritage building that is within their care. We've talked about a lot, and if there is somebody at the Royal BC Museum or in the tourism ministry that wants to chat further, my business email is in the description. The Royal BC Museum is ripe with potential, but it seems like every time they try and do something cool and new, politicians get their sticky little fingers in there and seem to make a mess of it. There was a unique opportunity to have something fascinating and fresh and new without removing Old Town, but what I saw on opening day was the same Old Town that I saw when I was a kid, but with dark, vacant windows and an uneasy atmosphere. As I've said, BC history is absolutely fascinating. It's also extremely inaccessible. How are people supposed to learn about BC's history, the people who live here, people's experiences, the systems that are in place, etc., when the museum that represents BC's history is this? I will probably go back again in a few months just to see how this exhibition has progressed, but my hopes are not high. If you have seen this refreshed exhibit, please let me know what you thought. Did you have a similar experience that I did, or did you think it was great? I would love to start a conversation. But that is all that I have to say about this topic. Thank you very much for sticking it out with me to the end. And wherever you are, I hope that you have a wonderful day or evening, and I will see you next time.